you could just go ahead and read that when you're ready.
I was 14 years old, and it happened in the basement of a Jewish community center. He'd been trying to hook up with my friend the night before, but I figured I'd give him another chance to see if he was a decent human. We went to a stairwell, and I accepted a back rub from him. He started biting my ears and telling me I wanted to kiss him, calling me a tough cookie, but he was going to break me. I left. He found me the next day, and I agreed to hook up with him because no one had ever been attracted to me before. And that's what I thought it was. He stuck his hand between my legs while I was working up the nerve to kiss him, put a quarter in my bra for reasons I still don't understand. Asked if I wanted to touch him, grabbed my wrist, and pulled my hand between his legs when I said no. Then asked me if I wanted to just be friends. I didn't see him for the rest of the convention.
I was 16. He came over to my house and my family wasn't home. We watched The Office and he asked if we could go upstairs. I liked him and wanted to take things further with him, but I didn't want to have sex. We started kissing, and all of a sudden he had my shoulder pinned with one arm and his other hand over my mouth. It happened so fast I could hardly react. I just remember him being so much bigger and stronger than I thought. I finally got him off of me after a few minutes, and he got angry. He grabbed all of his things, turned to me, and said, "This is how you repay me for taking you out to lunch," and left.
It was the end of freshman year, a few days before I moved out. I had just finished all of my finals and had a lot of downtime. My roommate was gone, most of the girls on my floor were gone or leaving, but my parents weren't coming until Friday. I invited this person to my room thinking that we could hang out and he would help me pack and maybe watch a movie or something, very casual. We ended up doing all of those things, but also drank a little as well along the way. Neither of us were blacked out or anything, just enough to be tipsy and aware that you're drunk, but not dysfunctional or belligerent. We started talking about my then ex-boyfriend at the time, and he just kept saying over and over, "You could do better." I didn't know what that meant exactly, so the first few times I just tried to move on, but his comments just became progressively more persistent. He started asking me about the personal details of my previous relationship, like sexual activities and the things that my ex-boyfriend told me in confidence, which made me extremely uncomfortable, so I told him to leave. This person refused to leave after I asked, moved his things, and tried to physically move him. Nothing worked, and at this point I noticed a change. It wasn't a conversation anymore between friends, this was a ploy for something. He explained how he always eyed me at parties but didn't say anything because he knew that I was taken, and that he wanted to show me how much he meant it. He then proceeded to unbuckle his belt. He grabbed my shoulders and pushed me down on my bed, telling me not to scream. He held me there. I tried to fight back. I tried pushing him off and tried to find objects near me that could be used as weapons, but to no avail. I remember crying so hard the room was just a blur of colors when I accepted my fate and prayed that it would end soon. He unzipped his pants and started jamming his penis inside of me. Well, he's not here now, still sits with me to this day. I cried for hours. I still can't sleep or have anyone touch me intimately, and it's been over 2 years. I never reported it. The worst part of the incident was that I ended up becoming pregnant. I was faced with a difficult choice and ultimately chose to abort my baby.
I was 9 or 10 years old. It happened at the church I used to go to with one of my older Sunday school students. During an activity, he picked me up, pulled up my dress, and put his hand all over me when no one was around. Later that day, we had to be alone again for the other part of the activity, and he reached up my dress, pulled my panties down, and touched me again.
I was 17 and hanging out with a friend. He insisted that we smoke. I'd never smoked weed before. I had a bad reaction and threw up. As soon as I was vulnerable, he started touching me and rubbing my shoulders. We went up to his room and he pretended to sleep and then got on top of me. I was limp. I could not move and my arms were slack behind my head. He started kissing me and I told him to stop. I told him that I did not want to, and he told me that I knew exactly what I came for. He forced himself inside of me. I couldn't stop it. I wish I wasn't conscious enough to remember. I was a virgin, and I did not tell anyone until 3 years later. It changed me.
I was 15 years old, and it happened with my partner. It was after his junior prom. I was a freshman, and his date, because we were dating at the time. His parents picked us up from prom, and we went back to his house. I fell asleep, and when I woke up, he was on top of me. He used to abuse me throughout our relationship. He made me feel as if I owed him something. We eventually broke up, and since then, I have found the guy of my dreams.
I was 16 when I was dating my very first boyfriend. I didn't realize that my level of nervousness and discomfort around him was not normal. One time he accidentally reached up my shirt, and several times he was too cuddly for my comfort. We had been dating for about 2 months when, after school on Valentine's Day, he, out of the blue, pinned me to the wall and tried to kiss me. I just sort of pushed him away and did not let that become my first kiss. I broke up with him soon after. These were only tiny incidents, but they've stuck with me long after.
When I was 15, I was at a friend's house drinking with a big group of people, and we went to a party in the woods. When we got back to our house, it was super late and dark in the house. Many of us were sleeping in the living room, so I tried to lay on the couch and go to sleep, and a boy in the group came and laid next to me. He soon started putting his hand up my shirt and feeling me up all over my body. I got up and went to the bathroom, and when I got out, he was waiting for me. I tried to pretend I was asleep on the floor when he came back, but again, he laid next to me and started touching me. He tried to take off my clothes and force himself on me. There were others in the room, and even a few noticed, but did not do much. He finally stopped and then went into a room where my best friend was sleeping. They were exes and ended up hooking up that night. The next day when she found out, she was mad at me and blamed me for hooking up with someone she used to. I felt so alone and attacked. I did not report it.
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 Did not report it.
I did not report it.
I didn't report it. He was older and graduating and had connections to university staff that I thought would let him slide by untouched. It was also finals week, so I didn't think that anybody would listen or care.
I did report this. I was 18 years old and in Spain. I was violently raped by a boy who attended my language school there. I thought that I was going to die. He'd separated me from my friends and forced me into this spot hidden from the street. He forced me to perform oral sex on him, and I tried to bite his penis to make him stop. It encouraged him more, and he forced himself inside me. We were outside. I started to tell him no and stop, because that's all I could think of saying. He continued to rape me, but put his hand around my throat. I thought I was going to die and just hoped that someone would find my body. The bullying I faced all through senior year of high school made me wish he'd killed me that night. I did report this. The second assault happened here at Pitt. It was the Penn State weekend my freshman year. I was at a party and only had a beer, but started to feel bad. I later tested positive for GHB. I don't remember anything until I woke up in my bed sore and bleeding. People told me that a boy I'd been friends with took me to his room and had sex with me, even though I was unconscious. I don't know how I got to my room. I did report this. The third assault was the end of an abusive and toxic relationship. He received a cease and desist from the boy who previously assaulted me. He was pissed and came to my room to take out his anger on me in the form of sex. I told him to stop and to get off of me over and over, but it was useless. He told me that if I ever told anyone, he'd kill himself. I did report this.
So, what do you think happened when she reported each of the incidences?
I think it seemed that it didn't have a big effect, especially the second one, because the third person received a cease and desist. So it seemed like it didn't help her very much, but they also were three separate, locations and 3 different people, so it seemed like it wasn't very effective.
So, I actually know what happened after each incident. So, after the first one in Spain, her school and the program just brushed it off. Back at high school, she told a teacher who was supposed to help the students, but ended up being emotionally and verbally abused by them. After the second one, Title IX and the Pitt Police did an investigation, but could not do much because of the backlog on rape kits and Title IX omitting damning evidence. She was told by a dean that she woke up the next morning, regretted it, and then called it rape. And then after the third incident, he got kicked out of his fraternity, but then he got moved into her building. Are there any initial reactions that you want to share to that story?
I guess. Why? I guess that's the first thing that comes to my head. Why did he think he had the right?
It just sounds too common. It's a story we all know.
And why do you think she didn't report it?
because there's a lot of stigma and a lot of hatred towards people who report things that a lot of people probably wouldn't consider this as any type of assault or attack, just because they would think that nothing actually happened and it was just a night of partying and that this kid was probably just drunk and didn't know what he was doing.
At 9 or 10, at least how I was raised, you are taught to listen to adults and do what they tell you. And especially if she can be picked up like that. And she was probably in shock for a while and then didn't quite even realize what had happened until months later.
What would you say if you could talk to the person who went through this?
I would tell her that her feelings or their feelings are totally valid, and that it doesn't matter how small you perceive an incident to be, it can be traumatizing no matter what, and that, like, just that she's valid to take care of herself, and that if she ever needed anything, that I was there.
I mostly would just want to give them a hug. It's so terrible that they would have to go through that and more than once. So I think that that's just like, just know that I'm there for them, and if they want to talk about it, or just, you know, give them a hug, I guess.
How do you feel knowing that people with stories similar to this are walking around Pitt's campus every day?
It breaks my heart. I'm a professor at Pitt, and I try to explain this to other men in the faculty, because they have no idea that, you know, there's so many things against women already, and this is the worst, I think. Yeah, it's crazy to think that, you know, 1 in 3 or 4 of the girls sitting in your classroom is probably a survivor of some sort of sexual violence. How are you supposed to keep up and, like, function and get good grades and, you know, do well at your work and your schooling when you're battling stuff like this? It's really awful. Yeah.
To all the people who do go through something like this and you need somebody to talk to, you know you can reach out to anybody in the Pitt community that you feel comfortable with talking to. Know that there's always somebody there and you're not alone.